Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit. Today we are joined by Derek Weber, who is the CEO of GBG, an AI implementation expert, the founder of Lead with AI, and a much sought after speaker. Derek, welcome to the show.
Oh, happy to be here.
Can we start off? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the people you help? Tell us a little bit about GBG.
Yeah. So like I said, Derek Weber. So GBG is actually a marketing company. We work for and with B2B companies, long, complex sales cycles, emphasis in industrial, manufacturing, distribution, especially construction, but really that B2B focus is our most primary. Started the company actually 22 years ago, the summer before my senior year in college, selling t-shirts and sweatshirts on campus to student organizations, and thought I'd do that till I graduated and get my real job. And here we are 22 years later, waiting for that real job to materialize still, I guess.
Wow. So when businesses and clients come to GBG, what are some of the problems and pain points that they're experiencing in their business that you're helping them solve?
Yeah. So marketing in general is something that everybody needs, but not necessarily that they want. They
Right.
want more sales, they want more business. And what we're finding when clients are coming to us is that the things that they've always done are not producing the results that they used to.
Right.
And so that they know they need to do something different, and they're not exactly what that might be. And so they come to us and we help them navigate through that and figure out, hey, is marketing going to help you generate some more, not just short-term, but really more focusing on that long-term systematic growth that allows companies to continue to grow and expand in their marketplace.
And I just conversely, what does it look like if somebody needs those marketing services and doesn't take action, if they don't address the problem?
Well, I think that's it's always the issue in business is when you neglect the things that you're supposed to do, but you don't.
Right.
You can get away with it for a little while. But at the end of the day, there's people out there that are doing the things that you need to do. And those are the people in the long run, the ones that are putting in the work and building those foundational building blocks are going to be the ones that end up taking the opportunities and the leads that, you might have once gotten, the business that you've always had and just kind of rely on and expect. Those are the ones that start becoming vulnerable.
Right.
And, we see a lot of that with, when the sales teams become, as they say in the B2B world, is like the glorified milkman, where they're going around and revisiting all their same clients and just hoping and expecting for those same orders. And they lose sight of what's actually required to grow a business, which is not only maintaining the base, which is super important, but also how do you expand and grow into new opportunities.
And how do you ensure through your marketing that sort of growth that happens as a result of that marketing is a sustainable pattern and is something that they can carry on with?
Yeah. So a lot of the companies we work with have a highly technical component to what they do, what they sell. We work with companies like one company we work with that is a heat treating company. And
Right.
so they have metallurgists and all of these things, and it doesn't sound like it's that crazy of like, all right, you have to heat treat a piece of metal to make sure it holds up until you realize that this oftentimes goes on the airplanes that you're flying in.
Right. Right.
And you all of a sudden care dramatically about making sure, because a couple degrees difference in either direction, and now that piece of metal is not at its strength that it should be. And so a lot of the way that we approach that is we do what are called subject matter expert interviews, so SMEs. And what we'll do is we'll interview their engineers, we'll interview their technical people. We distill that down to what's the most important principles for the engineer heavy buyers that are looking for sprinkle a little marketing dust on there to make it actually enjoyable to read, but still super accurate and super technical, so that when an engineer or an engineerily minded person's reading this, like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. This company knows what they're talking about. And those highly technical purchases, you have to be on point, and it has to be in a way that they can digest it. And what ends up happening there is that builds that trust over the course of time. And if you're coming out with a consistent volume of that highly technical content, you build that level of trust among your reader base. And then when you put that into publications, or you put that in the journals, and you put that from a distribution perspective, you can really make a pretty sizable impact. And a lot of the clients that we work with over the course of time is like, now we're a part of their projections as far as what it's going to take in order for them to hit their new business goals. And it goes a long way, but it's one of those things you have to take the time to do it right.
And I have to just circle back there a little bit, because I want to talk about the importance of the, as you put it, marketing dust. I mean, what is can you speak to the importance of making something, enjoyable, I guess, right? How would you define the marketing dust? What is that sort of X factor that elevates it?
Yeah. So if the table stakes are, it has to be accurate, it has to be right, and it has to be informational. But then, like you said, it needs to be enjoyable. And so that's where creating the narrative, creating the structure that's easy for people to work their way through. We've all gone to movies. We've all read books that have a compelling story arc. There's the way that you can show up and talk about, what happens if this goes wrong. And here's an example of when it did. And here's what you need to do in order to make sure it doesn't. And here are the takeaways that you need to make sure that you're walking through. And so it's really about knowing, as everything is, knowing who's reading it and what is the way that you can connect with them emotionally on a very intellectual topic. And if you're able to do that successfully, which we've been able to, that really moves the needle in a pretty dramatic way, because it took us a long time to figure out how to navigate through that path and that highly technical content in a way that's impactful and gets the job done. And we've been able to also really, really leverage generative AI in a way that's allowed us to not only do that, but do that at scale and do that consistently well.
Sure. And can you tell us a little bit about, and tell the listeners a little about, what does GBG stand for, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so GBG, we rebranded just a couple of years ago. So Go Brand Go is the company that we had been around for a long, long time. And there's a thing that always strikes me is on college campuses. If you walk on a college campus, you can, within a few minutes, I can tell you what type of senior leadership that university has. And it's by the way they handle things that go off a little off course. So on all college campuses, you've got the 90-degree angles where, you've got a sidewalk that meets another sidewalk.
Sure.
And inevitably, students are going to cut right across that 90-degree angle.
Right. And
how university leadership handles those cut acrosses tells me exactly what type of leadership they have. It's one of three things. Is one, they fence it off and say, you can't walk through here. This is what you're going to do. This is what we told you you're going to do. And that's what you're going to do. Secondly, they just leave it alone. They don't do anything. And it becomes muddy. It becomes wet. It becomes a mess. And that just shows that they really don't care. Right. The third is they create some way to make it a walkway. And they'll do it in a creative way. It might be stepping stones, or it might be something they usually don't just pour another sidewalk, but they'll do something that's creative in a way that is additive, not only to the experience of the student, but to the view of the college campus. And for the longest time, people would call us GBG. And we're like, no, it's Go Brand Go, but okay, yeah, we'll answer to the nickname. And we realized that we weren't the ones that were redecorating that path in the way that we needed to. And what we also saw is this was an opportunity for us to really elevate and to showcase the level of sophistication that our organization had developed in the last 10 years versus the previous 10 years, where earlier on we were working with more earlier stage companies and startups, and it was more of that startup feel. But once we had developed a much higher level of sophistication, we brought on pretty high power senior level people. Our service offering had elevated. And so we felt like it was the right time to rebrand to the point where we could show that amazing level of sophistication and honor the folks that already knew us and were calling us GBG anyway.
Right. And can you tell us a little bit about this notion of grow better together?
So that is our central thesis. And that's our purpose statement, our mission. That's really what we focus on is how do we create the collaborations that allow all of us internally and externally to grow and to grow better together. So personally for me, what I love most and what I feel like is kind of my personal strength is I love bringing great people together to do greater things collectively than they could do individually. And so when you can inspire and align great people to do greater things, that just creates the win-win-win situation. And that's how we approach everything at GBG, whether it's with our employees, whether it's with our management team and leadership team, with our customers, with the community, is we're always looking at how do we create a win-win-win situation that not only educates, but also helps people drive better results. And, that's been the ethos of everything that we've been for 2 decades. And oftentimes that means that we're giving and giving and giving without expectation of return, but with an understanding that at some point, somewhere, somehow, that return always comes back around, and oftentimes bigger and better than we could have ever dreamed or imagined.
Right. And this kind of notion of people can do far greater things together. Was there a moment where you or is there a story maybe that you could share where that mantra really set in and that sort of became your mission?
Oh man. I could take this all the way back of when it became central to my leadership. And so when I was in high school was when the Columbine shooting in Colorado. So it was like the first mass shooting, mass school shooting. And I was the president of student council at my high school. And my principal came to me and said, Derek, what, we'd built a high level of trust. She's like, what do you think we need to do? What should we do? Because in our hallways, I went to a high school, it was like 2,300 kids. So we had a variety of different types of mentalities and philosophies. And so there were kids that are in our school that looked like the kids that did the Columbine shooting. And all of a sudden, those were the kids that were starting to get picked on and bullied in ways that they weren't before. And there was things happening in the hallways that, shouldn't be happening. And the tensions were starting to build in the school. And obviously that needed to be addressed. And so I told my principal, and I said, all right, let me talk with my executive team and get back to you. And what we came back to, and what we then we did inside of our school, is at lunch there was a room that was closed off, but it was all windows. And so once a week, leaders from student council from each grade and leaders from their group all just had lunch together. And what we did is we started getting to know each other, and we did just hanging out, just chatting, just talking. And what was incredible is as those conversations developed and grew, we were finding that we had just as much or more in common with those people as our friends, as our classmates that were more like us on the outside looking in. And so when we're in the hallway and one of those kids are walking down the hall and they're like, oh no, that's Steve. He's actually really cool. And it was amazing over just a couple of weeks. the temperature across the whole school went down.
Hmm.
And that really showed me, that really impacted and directed the way that I've led in every organization and every approach that I've brought since then, is just the power of getting people together, aligning on a common goal, and then trying to figure out how do we create, once again, those win-win situations, because no
Right.
one wanted that situation to escalate. We all wanted to figure out how do we just go back to like everyone getting along and understanding and creating those levels of empathy. And that showed me just the power of listening, of being empathetic, of making like real connections and really understanding what it takes to develop those human relationships. And when you understand what someone else is trying to accomplish and you find ways to make those intersect, the level of creative solutions that can come out of that are just incredible. And then people will always champion what they help build. And so if we can enroll people in co-creating the conditions for success, it just goes a lot farther.
Right. And I mean, it sounds like you have had and been an advocate for leadership and strong leadership and togetherness from a very early age. Was that something you cultivated, or was that just always innate to you as a person, innate to your character?
Yeah. So I was my first ever leadership position was in fourth grade. So I was the president of my fourth grade class, and our big deal was that we did a fundraiser that we raised money to. I grew up outside of St. Louis, and our big sale fundraiser allowed us to paint the map of Missouri on the blacktop at our playground. And when I was a few years out of college, I actually found my little flip notebook at my parents' house that detailed the unit cost, the pricing, and like how much money we make and I was really proud of my fourth grade self, of just like how well we did at setting a goal. We made the plan and we implemented and executed. So leadership has been something that's always been fascinating to me. And even throughout college, anytime there was an opportunity for me to, anytime a professor would say you can do it on any topic, I would almost always center in on some aspects of leadership, of the principles, of the foundations of it, of just like the idea of how do you get people to be inspired and aligned to do something together has always been something that's been really, really a passion of mine.
Well, going from leadership, I'd like to talk a little bit about Lead with AI. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about Lead with AI?
Yeah. So 2.5 years ago, I had just come off of what was a 20-year vision, 10-year goal, 5-year plan, which is so I grew up on a 5th-generation dairy farm out in Jefferson County, about 45 minutes outside of St. Louis. And I had never left the country at all until my sophomore year in college, and I studied abroad. And in those 5 months, I went to 13 different countries. And my world went from really small to really big, really quick.
Right.
And I can remember sitting there and thinking, wow, it's weird that they do that. And it's weird that they do this. And then all of a sudden it kind of clicked for me, was like, oh no, it's just different that they do that. They would look at what we do as weird.
Right.
Oh, like that means there's different levers and buttons that you can push and pull and live life the way that you want, which were like really big thoughts for a 20-year-old. And at that moment I said, all right, when I have kids, I want to make sure that I get them exposed to as many cultures as I can, as early as they can, so that they start with this big worldview.
Right.
And so I set this vision of like, when I have kids, I want to live internationally with them for a period of time so that they get that exposure. And so fast forward into the summer of 2023, I did a 3-month sabbatical, and we lived in Europe for an extended period of time. And as I went into that sabbatical, at first I was looking at it as like, all right, what do I want to keep and what do I want to get rid of from a delegation perspective? Because I have also found that every time that I've taken an extended time, whether it's at first it was a week, then it was a couple weeks, then maybe 4 weeks, is if I use that time to trust my leadership team, to trust my second in command, and to add more things and let them have more accountabilities. Like each time the organization would respond in kind would level up. And so what started out as what do I want to keep and what do I want to get rid of? I was like, no, actually, I need to just wipe the whole slate clean, come back with a clean plate, and then decide what to add back.
Right.
And so when I came back, so this was late summer of 23, ChatGPT was just really hitting the main stage. And now with this newfound space, I spent a lot of time researching, playing, just kind of digging in. And at that time, it was still not very good. I can still remember just the level of like, I know this can work, but man, I can't get it to work. But I knew at that time is like, one, this is definitely where marketing is going. Like 100%. I knew with 100% certainty. And I was 95% sure this is where business was going.
Right.
And so that fall, we committed our entire organization to be a human-centric AI-powered marketing company. And so we, at that point forward, we have been, for the last 2.5 years, have been rebuilding our company from the inside out, brick by brick, block by block, of how do we reconstitute the entire organization to be human-centric, AI-powered. And so on this journey, people kept being like, hey, I heard you're leveraging AI. How are you doing that? Can I pick your brain? Can I pick your brain? Can you? And you can only have your brain picked so much before it just starts like melting out of your ears. And so I was like, all right, time out. Let me put together some workshops. And so in Q1 of this year, I put together a workshop series and walked people through the frameworks, the methodologies, the mindset that's required to leverage generative AI, and then actually showcase some use cases of how do you build virtual advisors and how do you build tools that you can use within your organization.
Right.
And thought that I would do that and be like, okay, cool. We've got some workshops under our belt. One of the attendees was a business owner out of Texas. She has 6 retail locations. And one of the first tools that I train on are what are called building virtual advisors. And so it's using what I've created as a wizard builder that walks you step by step. It's essentially a 12-page prompt chain that walks you step by step to build the training documentation to go out and build based off a business leader or a thought leader that allows a custom assistant, so a ChatGPT, a custom GPT or a Claude project, to act as that thought leader in a very defined way. And so she's going through this process like, oh, I don't see the option that you see. And I had her share her screen, and she still had the free version of ChatGPT. I was like, oh, you can't build that until you. So she's literally on the workshop signing up for this paid version. Fast forward 3-4 months later, because at the end of the workshop, she goes, you're not done with me. I don't know what we're doing next, but this is too cool. We're not done. And so started kind of working with her in a more of like a coaching mentorships perspective. And fast forward 3 months later, and she has role sidekicks for each of her store managers, for her general managers. She's working on a product selector chatbot, and like that was in just a few months. And I'm like, all right, this is really cool. And so I was like, there's got to be something more that we can do here. And so I started having more conversations with other business owners who were all frustrated with, I know I need to be doing something. I know that we need to integrate AI, but I have no idea where or how to start. And so that was the impetus of Lead with AI is, one, let's focus on, instead of all the AI thought leaders that are out there, and I'll put that in air quotes, just bemoaning on about automation and agents. And then people watch those videos, read those articles, and then they realize that it doesn't work because it doesn't work. Because what works in a video doesn't work in real life. And then they get frustrated and they're like, oh, AI doesn't work in my business.
Right.
And it's the reality is, if you automate chaos, you just get more chaos faster. And the importance is that you take the time to build the fundamental building blocks, and you go step by step, brick by brick. And so that's really what Lead with AI is. It's an AI membership that is about learning the fundamentals, learning the basics of how generative AI works. And then you have access to tools and frameworks and all these methodologies that allow you to build the training documentation that's required for creating really, really powerful custom assistants. And so you can build out your suite of custom GPTs or Claude projects or Gemini gems. And this is all the lessons and the ways that inside of GBG, we've reverse engineered all the things that have worked and distilled those down to make them industry and company agnostic. And then you have these wizard builders that walk you through, these step-by-steps to build this training out.
Right. That's pretty incredible. I mean, that's just the forethought to do that is incredible in and of itself. Now, I do have a question for you. And some of these business owners, and I'm sure you run into this all the time, are wary to implement AI. And I'm wondering, what are some of the common concerns they have, and what do you say to them to sort of assuage some of those concerns?
Yeah, I think the biggest concerns typically come with is just this resistance and fear of I don't even know where to start. So it's this resistance and fear of looking silly, of looking foolish. I mean, all of us have gotten to where we are in our professional and personal lives by being good at something. And then now you have to actually step back and lean into being bad at something. And that's really, really hard to do. I think the other part is there's so much fear, not just among business leaders, but among employees, because all these headlines that we hear are Amazon lays off, 3,000 people, Facebook lays off 10,000 people, all because of efficiencies from AI. One, I'm pretty sure that's just AI window dressing, that they all way overhired in 21, 22, 23. And now they've got a bunch of people that they have to be very careful with how they message. I think that's more of a communication strategy than an AI strategy. But regardless, like these big corporations, I think are really missing the boat on how they're seeing AI as an extraction tool, as a subtraction tool, where small, medium-sized businesses, really it's about leveraging AI as a multiplication tool. Is how do we have human-centric AI powered that creates the ability for our team to multiply their impact, to multiply the value by taking the work that has to get done. It's on a repetitive basis, but isn't it's super important, but it's not really high value to the customer or to the end product. It's the behind the scenes stuff. And that's where we've really focused, not just my team, but that's really where a lot of the Lead with AI tools are built, is creating these role specialists. And we always think about it as a 10-80-10 standpoint of you should be focusing on getting all your inputs, getting the information, getting those things shaped in the way that is going to set you up for success. The first 10% have generative AI that's highly trained, do the next 80%. And then you're coming back and shaping, forming, polishing, confirming the last 10%.
Right.
And if you do this 10-80-10, you start shaving off a half hour here, an hour here, maybe 3 hours, 5 hours on a weekly basis. And now all of a sudden you start opening up the capacity for your team to work on super high value work that they didn't really have the time or energy or effort to be able to put on that focus. And that's where in the last 2.5 years, GBG has grown by 30% without adding headcount. Our employee satisfaction scores are the highest they've ever been. Our customer satisfaction scores are the highest they've ever been. Our client results, both quantitatively and qualitatively, are the highest they've ever been. And it's because we're uniquely leveraging our people to do the things that they love doing. And it's and getting and leveraging AI to do the things that need to be done, but aren't necessarily the most important things. It's like when we bring on a new client, one of the things we do a lot of research because we need to know how to position them, how to message them, how to approach it. So we do competitive research. We do research on them. We do research on their target market. And we're trying to find that winning zone, that Venn diagram that connects those three things. And then part of the competitive research, we may go out and say like, all right, what are the keywords that your competitors are ranking for? And oftentimes that might be 15,000 keywords. And right now we have to sift and sort, and then we organize and cluster and be like, okay, here are the ones that are irrelevant. Here's the ones that matter. Now we're going to focus on the ones that now are important to your differentiation and create content clusters and content pillars. Our clients don't care if that takes 5 minutes or 5 weeks.
Right.
They care about the quality of the content that we're going to produce for them. And so now we've built specialists that help turn that from multiple weeks into just a couple days. That doesn't impact the end product by us making that more efficient. Now we can actually leverage the results of that to create more better content for our clients that are really high impact.
That's absolutely amazing. And Derek, I mean, this has been just an awesome conversation. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. If anybody out there listening could use your help, could use the help of GBG, Lead with AI, where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can go to gbgmarketing.com. So that's on the marketing side, and take a look at our philosophy, our approach, and see if that resonates with you. If you're a B2B company that has a long, complex sales cycle, and you've worked with marketing companies that just don't get you, those are the people who we have the best success with, because we've built our tools, our methodology, our approach, our team to really be able to take those complex things and make them really impactful and highly focused. If you're interested in integrating AI into your organization, you can go to leadwithai.us. And that is where you can see more of the approach that take from Lead with AI. So the way that works, it's a membership cohort. So there's 3 cohorts per year. And there are tools that you get access to, workshops, methodologies. And then we also do a 90-minute office hours once a month where you're learning with and from other business owners who are at the same stage of implementation. And it's really about, once again, how are you learning the basic fundamentals? Because like in sports, if you learn the fundamentals, when the defense comes at you, you're not locked into one specific way of approaching. You have the ability to navigate and get creative. And I think we can all agree that the speed of change and the speed of disruption is not going to slow down. It's only going to speed up.
Right.
And so having those basic fundamental understandings of how to navigate in and around all that's happening in the industry is becoming more and more important. And so that's where there's, so many ways there. But if you don't understand the basics, you're beholden to other people. And this is where we talk about not about just giving you a fish or even teaching you to fish. It's teaching you how to build your own fish farm, because at that point, that gives you the ability to be very adaptable and resilient.
Well, Derek, thank you so much. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Appreciate you having me.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Derek, thank you again.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.